Hello everyone and welcome to the first tutorial from Johanna Basford's Enchanted Forest. I've called this the Castle Reflection piece for obvious reasons. This is my original finished piece that I posted on Facebook for you to have a look at to see if it's something that you wanted to replicate, because it covers several of the techniques that are remaining that you've asked me to show you, which are sunsets. So a lot of you have said, how can I create a sunset background? And then the other thing was reflections. And you can see that I've put a reflection of the castle in the moat of the design. And there's a trick to doing this correctly. So what I'm going to be doing today is telling you a little bit about perspective, and hopefully by the end you'll understand how I've been able to place these lines correctly so that the reflection in the water looks geometrically correct. So I just wanted to show you that finished one. I've got my blank piece from the actual drawing book itself, so you won't need the artist's edition because this design is actually in the normal book. Clearly, if you've got an artist edition version, by all means, they're exactly the same design. You'd be able to colour in any. Now, just before I start, I want to make a little mention to a little girl called Annabella, who's 9 years old. My good friend Vivian Walsh, who lives in South Africa, it's her granddaughter, and Annabella, I believe, has been learning a little bit about perspective. So I'm hoping that she's going to be watching and following along, because it really is a magical way to understand the world when you know how to draw like that. So hopefully Annabella will be watching us as we go. So we'll come back to this in a moment. As I say, I want to explain about how Johanna's already put perspective in this piece. So you can see, if I just put my ruler there, the little footpath that leads up to the castle is clearly in perspective. And I just want to show you how to replicate that so you'll be able to do the castle walls. So I'm going to start with a blank piece of paper, and I'm going to draw myself a line across the middle. And that is the horizon line. And basically that is where the sky meets the earth. Little tree. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a train track to emulate how Johanna has created this effect with the walkway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little dot in the middle of this horizon line, and that is called the vanishing point. And if we were stood on the train track and it was a straight line and we were looking forward along it, that would be the place on the horizon where the train track would disappear from view. So all I'm going to do is, very simply, I'm just going to take my ruler. I'm not going to draw a vertical line. I'm just going to put a little dot around about there and then measure. And it can be however big you want it if you were trying this technique out. I'm just going to measure 3 centimetres either side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the vanishing point to those dots there, like so. And then once I start to put the train track in, like that, you will see that if we were stood here looking this way, that train track would disappear into the distance. And what you would find was that as you went on, these train tracks would gradually appear to get closer together the further that you got away. And very simply, that's the technique that Johanna has used for her perspective in this piece. But before we go back to it, I just want to show you how you can also use this really simple technique to create a background. So I've seen a couple of pieces on our Facebook group where people have placed a design that Johanna's done, and it's had a blank outside, but they've placed it so it looks like it's sitting inside of a room. And this is a really simple way to achieve it. So I'm just going to get rid of this piece of paper and show you how you can do that. While we're talking about perspective, I thought it would be a good idea. So again, I'm just going to draw myself a horizon line, and I'm going to put myself a vanishing point in the middle. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw myself a square. So I'm just going to 12 centimetres on this side, 12 centimetres on this side, and I'm just gonna draw myself basically a box. Like that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take each point, and I'm just making sure you can see all of this. Yes, you can. We're going to take each corner and we're going to draw a line to that vanishing point in the middle. Like that. So we're making a cross. Like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw myself an inside box. So on these two diagonal lines, I'm just going to join them together about here, I think. Like that. And again, just draw myself down to that diagonal. So you can see I'm making a square within a square. Like that. Then what we do is, to get the effect of being inside the room, we erase, and you'll see that you'll be magically looking into a room. Like that. So if I go over that in, let me see if black pen works. So if I just go over those lines so that they stand out a little bit more for you. Just bear with me because you'll see it immediately. And it's just a very neat little trick for a background, and you can also use it to put in a floor. So you don't have to have the background as the full room. You could use this technique to just put in, say, a wooden floor with wooden boards, which I've seen done quite a few times, and it's a really good effect. So now you can see very roughly that you are looking into the inside of a room. And if you wanted to put the wood slats onto the floor, you just go back to your original vanishing point and just make yourself little marks. I'm just making mine 1 centimetre wide. And then you just join them to the vanishing point like that. And I'll do some over here so that you'll see how it works. She says we don't want to be drawing the back of the room. So you can see immediately there, I'm just going to do these by eye, that you can put in a living room or a dining room floor. And then you would have like your wood effect if that's what you wanted to make the floor, or you could make it tiled. And again, if you wanted a window to one side of the room, all I'm going to do is draw myself a couple of lines, vertical lines, back to my vanishing point. There we have a window in the side wall. So you can see that one simple technique of horizon lines and one single vanishing point will create you a whole load of effect should you wish to use it. And what I'm going to do is just quickly show you 2-point perspective. because that is how you build cubes, cube shapes, building shapes. So again, horizon line, and instead of putting one vanishing point on, because it's 2-point perspective, I'm going to put myself 2 dots there, and then all I'm going to do is draw myself a vertical line in the middle, and at the end of these, lining up to this first vanishing point, and again on this side, like that, join those together, and again on this side, make it slightly longer, like that, and then you can see that you can turn that into anything. You could turn it into a Rubik's Cube, you could turn it into a 3D house, you could basically turn it into anything you wanted. And as I say, if you're considering backgrounds, it's such an easy, simple way to do it. And again, if you wanted windows, exactly the same principle. Vanishing point, lining up, like that. There we go, the building has a window. So hopefully you get the point. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to take you back to Johanna's piece, which is here, and you can see that she's already done her little railway track, which is the footpath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out where that vanishing point is. So I'm just going to line my ruler up with the sides of this footpath, and where I think it's going to meet, I'm going to make myself a little dot, and you can see it's just under that central oval window. And then very simply, what we do is join that vanishing point to the bottom of this castle wall here, and then this wall will extend out in reflection over the water like that. So you've got your ruler in line with the vanishing point. And again over this side, so the bottom corner of this turret, I'm going to line that up with my vanishing point, and the reflection in the water would come out on that angle there. Now what I'm going to do is, because this is a spare copy, I'm actually going to highlight that up in black pen. Clearly this won't be on the one that I finish, but I want you to see clearly the lines that I've just drawn because they're in pencil. So I'm just going to go over them and you'll be able to see them a little bit better. So this is how the castle would reflect down into the water. And obviously there's all sorts of different turrets, and you can put in as much detail as you want. But basically that's how to get the castle wall shape correct, looking geometrically correct in the water. And you just basically repeat that process for if you wanted to put the windows in. So you're kind of going back to your vanishing point. So this window would kind of sit there, like that. So hopefully you get the idea. And when you are looking at the piece from the gate, if you were stood outside of the gates, that would make sense as to how that reflection would translate down onto the surface of the water. So we'll leave that there for today. I promise you we're going to start colouring tomorrow. But if you wanted to go away and pencil draw yourself in where you think the reflection would be, what I would say is if you're going to do that, do it in very, very light pencil, because it's really just to give you an idea of where we're going to put the colour for the reflection in the windows. So you can see that my line here, I'll show you both at the same time. So the line of my castle wall there, you can see that's what we've drawn. But I haven't actually got a pencil line here because I don't want it, clearly if it's reflecting in the water it'll be quite misty and murky, and it won't be a solid line. So if you're going to draw these lines out, which I suggest you would, so you've got an idea of where you want to place everything, do it in a very light pencil. And as I say, if you wanted to go away then and kind of do all of your little, mark yourself out very lightly where your windows are going to be, always going back to that vanishing point in the middle there. And then tomorrow we'll start on the colouring. So I hope that's been really helpful, and I shall speak to you soon.